Thank you very much. I will walk you through what is a common position of patients, consumers, and healthcare professionals on shortages. We have worked jointly on this document, which is now being endorsed by several organizations. We have worked on this very hard in the past months. Slide, please. These are our recommendations. Oh, thank you. Should only work. Okay. So we suggest that a robust early warning system is put up that puts patients first. Policies should first and foremost aim to ensure timely and adequate supply of medicines to patients. We understand that not all supply shortages we experience as patients are actual supply shortages as identified by industry, but we don't care really. We want the drugs we need at the time we need them, and what is behind it is of little interest to society and to public health. So this really must be the emphasis that drugs that are prescribed are on the shelf to be prescribed in the right moment. Will it work? Yes, I start to understand how this works with the mouse. So we would like that MBA with national competent authorities should create a unit to facilitate the prevention, coordination of resolution and of communication on shortages, that there would be a public catalog on supply shortages, that market research is being conducted to improve the understanding of the causes and the scale of the shortages, to work more closely with industry to prevent these shortages and to better organize the end of a shortage, reinforce good manufacturing practices, inspections, and more resources for these activities, and involve us, patients and healthcare providers, in the decision-making and communication about the shortages. And here is a brilliant example from the Netherlands, what can be done. This is open, transparent, open to the public, and everybody sees it. This is how we imagine things to be handled in the future. Public authorities should explore the establishment of buffer stocks to be held by wholesalers for more flexibility in the supply chain. I'm not sure how realistic this is, but perhaps something to be looked at with key medicines. Ensure fair distribution of the remaining supply. This is an issue that came up, that some member states and some hospitals actually stockpile large quantities when a shortage is in sight, which puts other patients at risk. So we have to think about something, managing remaining stocks in case of a serious shortage when no alternative is around. How we manage that is open to debate, but it's an idea. And perhaps we can do something. We should establish a mechanism for stakeholders to report evidence of a product shortage to the authorities. And we should examine the causes of shortages, including economic ones, and to formulate recommendations to prevent or alleviate them. We have the economic crisis, and we have huge troubles in Greece, we have huge troubles in Portugal, and somehow patients are lost and don't really know what is happening. So the authorities should be much more aware of what is really going on, and also perhaps put on the spot, because when Greece doesn't pay its bills but is buying airplanes for its army, then I wonder where the priorities are. And governments need to feel the pressure from society. On the industry side, for preventing shortages, I very much like this morning the presentation done by ISPE. This was very insightful for me. When industry puts the priorities in the right place, shortages actually hardly ever happen, unless there is really an accident. And this was very enlightening for me to see. There should be a supply shortage risk assessment plan with the MA submission. You should consider multiple manufacturing sites. When you depend on one manufacturing site, you are in you just increase the risk for being in trouble. When a possible shortage occurs, confidentiality because of business sensitive information would not be accepted. So you really need to be open and transparent and communicate about it on a timely basis, and also collaborate with us in finding alternatives or a way out. When communicating on clinical trial results, anticipate potential consequences on compassionate use. This relates a little bit to experiences we had in HIV, where such big progress was made from one drug to a next one. It might happen again with hepatitis C. So when you really have major advances to come, be aware that you have to scale up production rather quickly and have enough stocks around once a drug gets reimbursed, or have enough stocks to supply a compassionate use program that is put in place in order to save people's lives. So this is really crucial. And when we heard this morning how long it takes to establish additional product lines, I know this also from vaccine development. This is really a crucial issue, that we get this thing done faster and approved faster by the authorities. It cannot be that lead times are 5-6 years. This should really be 12 months or even shorter, and it should not be stuck with the authorities not being able to inspect a new site. In the EU, medicines shortages might also stimulate an increase in cross-border treatments. We have seen this happening in a couple of countries. We have seen drugs being shipped from Romania to neighbor states because they were cheaper in Romania and then missing in the hospitals. We have seen more cross-border treatments, people just walking over the border to get the treatment they need. And this is not good care, and this is not what we want. Adapt production capacity to the planned dates of marketing authorization. I think that's evident. Industry has an interest in running its business, so please, this should be an easy one to catch. The risk assessment plan would be a document where the applicant would explain how the production capacity is being planned in order to satisfy the demand, both for pre-marketing authorization, compassionate use, and after-marketing authorization. So showing that you are able to scale up your production and comply with the demand, and which measures the company could take if there is an issue, higher demand than expected, or a manufacturing defect. And this plan should be agreed upon with the EMA and the national authority before the marketing authorization. Although small starting companies cannot be obliged to have different manufacturing sites, EMA should think of basic requirements to minimize a risk for shortage, including regular inspections and realistic calculations based upon assessment of population, production capacity, etc. And managing shortages from the industry side, we would expect that industry informs the EMA and relevant healthcare professionals and patient organizations when a shortage is possible. Even if false alerts, we can manage those. Involve the patient organizations and healthcare professionals in all aspects of the shortage management, which means updating guidelines, programs, and the communication. Communicate precise figures, please, production capacity and remaining stocks, and treat all countries equally, and within these countries, each hospital and each wholesaler equally. Other recommendations, alternative unlicensed treatments should be made available through compassionate use programs if considered sufficiently safe. I mentioned the Calyx generic from India that the FDA imported, and we were left out here in Europe for reasons I understand, legally I understand them, but it's an unacceptable situation. It doesn't interest me as a European when I see the Americans can resolve the matter timely and we can't. And I think we don't have to discuss it. General guidelines might be helpful, developed with support of ethicists and legal advisors, how to distribute a small supply of a medicine when prioritization is impossible through randomization or whatever. This needs discussion, and perhaps discussion in every case this is happening. There are perhaps little general rules that we can apply. We just need to make sure the discussion is happening and prepared and supported. And the scope of pharmacy practice should be extended when medicines are in short supply. When a medicine is not available, they should have a right to substitute the medicine with another one without big administrative burdens, as it seems to happen in some countries. I was mentioned Germany was rather difficult, but I can't verify that. Somebody told me just in the lunch break. So this is something pharmacies should be able to manage rather easily. Some proposals require changes to the framework. Legal obligations, legislation should require companies to notify the EMA of shortages even when the shortage is only possible. Provisions to Article 81 of the EU Directive of Medicines for Human Use should be strengthened. GMP inspections should be more frequent for all medicines on the EU market. For medicines that are life-saving or to treat severe conditions with no substitution product, the SSRAP should be mandatory. Review of the operation of the pricing system in Europe, including its impact on medicines shortages. This has been identified as a possible issue. In situations of extreme shortage, as a last resort, consider to legislate on random allocation of remaining supply, legally binding coordination at European level by the EMA to ensure fair distribution of remaining supply. And I come to the end. Other points to discuss. The prohibition of parallel exporting of medicines. The EU movement of goods, the free movement of goods, seems to matter more to those responsible for the medicine supply chain than the best interest of EU patients. And it was indeed in the EADG survey to be one of the issues why shortages occurred, that wholesalers were just gambling drugs around and making profit here and there. Parallel exporting is highlighted frequently as being a major underlying cause of the medicine shortages currently being experienced. Although legal under EU law, the practice should be prohibited if it poses a threat to public health. Perhaps a legal separation between wholesaling and dispensing pharmacies. There should be a legal separation between wholesaling and dispensing activities. Such an approach would allow manufacturers to prioritize supply to pharmacies that serve patients directly and would also provide clear evidence of transactions for regulators. And here the people who have contributed to this position, it's now being adopted by our organizations in both working parties. And these are the organizations who have already signed it, and I can add my organization who did it yesterday.